So we have another interview for the Together We Can program here at Fever FM. And I'd like to welcome Chef AJ all the way from California. Chef AJ, are you there?
I am right here.
Welcome to the show, Chef AJ. Thank you very much for making time for us and our listeners today. Just a little bit about Chef AJ. She has been devoted to a plant-exclusive diet for over 43 years and was the host of a television series, Healthy Living with Chef AJ, which aired on Foodie TV. A chef, culinary instructor, and professional speaker, she is the author of the popular book, Unprocessed: How to Achieve Vibrant Health and Your Ideal Weight, which chronicles her journey from an obese junk food vegan faced with a diagnosis of precancerous polyps to learning how to create foods that nourish and heal the body. Chef AJ was the executive pastry chef at Santé restaurant in Los Angeles, where she was famous for her sugar, oil, salt, and gluten-free desserts, which use the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the whole fruit. These recipes can be found in her book, A Date with Dessert. She's also the creator of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which has helped hundreds of people achieve the health and the body that they deserve, and is proud to say that her IQ is higher than her cholesterol. And in 2018 was inducted into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. Welcome once again to Fever Radio, Chef AJ.
Well, thank you.
Did I miss anything out of that introduction?
Did you miss anything else? No, that was a good one. Actually, I've been vegan for almost 50 years.
Wow, I think I have never come across somebody who's been living a plant total lifestyle for that long. So glad to have you on board, and the extensive knowledge and experience that you have. I mean, Chef AJ, I've come across you on social media and via your YouTube channel. You're very prolific in presenting recipe ideas and research around plant-based eating and health, and so I've taken a lot of value away from the things that you've been creating for viewers and listeners in the past, and so really glad to have you here. I mean, one question: it's been 43 years now that you've been on this plant-exclusive diet. Plant-based wasn't even a term then. So
no, I don't think so.
How did it all happen? How did you come across to a plant-exclusive diet?
Yeah, I didn't have those words back then either. It's been almost 46 years. I never heard the word vegan growing up. Vegetarian, yes, but not vegan. And I just knew as a little kid that animals were friends and not food. But, I was born in 1960, and it wasn't like there were any vegans around or Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine to explain to us why it's the healthiest way to eat, or even the internet where we could look things up. And so, my mom, like other mothers, if you don't drink milk, you won't have strong bones. If you don't eat meat, where are you going to get your protein? But I had a hard time eating animals growing up. Luckily, we were Jewish, and actually we were Orthodox. And so there was a lot less meat choices available. So, for example, things that people normally ate, like pepperoni pizza, well, we couldn't mix milk with meat anyway. So I had never tasted that. I never tasted bacon or pork or, shrimp, lobster, clams, crabs, any shellfish. There were so many things that we didn't eat anyway. So how many animals did we eat as Jewish people? A few. But if it had a bone in it, I couldn't eat it. Like, so for example, I could eat chili if there was some crumbled up ground beef or tuna fish where it was like kind of mushy. But when people would serve the fish, how they sometimes do at restaurants where their head is of the bone.
Yeah, right.
Like, I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't eat ribs. Anything that had a bone or looked like an animal, I wouldn't eat. The day that I left home for good for the University of Pennsylvania for college, I was 17, September 1st, 1977. I never ate another animal again because I didn't do it healthfully, but I just couldn't do it. And part of the reason is I was a pre-veterinary student at University of Pennsylvania, and we had to work for a veterinarian as part of the work-study program. And the very first day on the job, he asked me to cut off the heads of a whole tank of live salamanders.
Oh, wow.
And and that was like, I'm a person that I still, at this age, when I'm getting like a blood draw, I'd have to look away. I'm not good with needles or, I remember somebody once tried to take me fishing and I thought that is disgusting. Like, you take this life. I mean, I'm just not good with blood or hurting things. And so I did cut the head off one salamander and I just freaked out. This is not right. And I threw up and I went to the student health center and I said, can't do this anymore. And I basically had to drop out of college because that was my major, biology. And, they had you do all these weird things like dissect frogs and cats. And it just didn't seem right to me. And so I became an ethical vegan, but I didn't become a healthy vegan because instead of putting in the foods I eat today, like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, I just put in my own food groups: candies, cakes, cookies, pies. I drank Coke Slurpees. I drank Dr. Pepper. There's a lot of things that are vegan and that were vegan 50 years ago: potato chips, soda, crackers, French fries that were vegan but weren't healthy. So I basically ate a 100% junk food processed vegan diet. And that's how I became, in my early 40s, close to 200 pounds with precancerous polyps. So I don't recommend the junk food vegan diet. I don't recommend processed food to any person, but that was my story. So, ethical vegan to healthy vegan.
Right. I mean, I'd say that's a familiar. I mean, in today's vegan world, let's say, or plant-based world, I think it's very easy for a lot of new vegans or people who want to eat plant-based to kind of fall into the junk food trap. There's just so many products out there that, fake burgers, fake chicken, and all of these kind of things. So it's interesting. So you became a plant-based eater, but you weren't necessarily very healthy for the first period of eating plant-based foods.
No, I wouldn't say I was unhealthy, because I think when you have youth on your side, I didn't have any discernible lifestyle diseases other than I was overweight.
Right.
But it caught up with me in my 40s when I started bleeding from these polyps. There's some people that can get away with eating a little or a lot of junk food, or maybe even animal products. So I think that's based largely on genetics and luck. But hey, I think it's still a healthier way to eat when you eat an unprocessed. I like to say plant exclusive, because I don't like the word plant-based. I know it's popular, or plant forward, or plant predominant, because when you say plant-based, well, what does that mean? 51% plants and 49% junk food, or
Right.
49% animal products? So plant exclusive, it's pretty obvious. I think some countries call it pure vegetarian, I don't know. I like plant exclusive.
Or plant total.
It makes me feel very exclusive. No, I'm just kidding. But
so you had these precancerous polyps, and was that kind of for you a wake-up call in terms of eating
absolutely
healthy?
Because I did not want to have surgery. My grandmother died of colon cancer. My uncle had 80% of his colon removed because of colon cancer. And when I went in for the colonoscopy, because my colon was in such a state of disarray, from just basically not eating fiber for 43 years, they could not remove them the way they normally would with the calipers. Because they would risk infection. So they were telling me I have to have like real surgery, like where you get anesthesia, general anesthesia, and cut open. And I was like, not me. Because when I was 19, I had just a same-day surgery with general anesthesia and almost died from the anesthetic. I was allergic to it. So I'll tell you, my phobia, my exaggerated fear of anesthesia has saved me from a lot of things in life, including, and so it was much easier for me to change my diet, let me tell you.
So what you're saying then is you treated the precancerous polyps not with traditional medical intervention, just through actual eating. Okay, and
the doctors, and most of the doctors didn't believe it, because what happened is I went to the Optimum Health Institute in Lemon Grove, California on July 6, 2003, which was the last time I had sugar. And we learned there, it was a place where they taught us, doctors and nurses, that what you eat has a profound effect on not only how you look and how you feel, but what diseases a person acquires, lifestyle diseases, and what diseases they can actually reverse. And they explained that when the body is in a state of inflammation, everything ends in itis pretty much in medicine, that it can't heal, and that all the foods I was eating, even though I wasn't eating animal products, which are extremely inflammatory, the oils, the sugar, the salt, the flour, caffeine, chocolate, all these things are very inflammatory. And so you want to eat an anti-inflammatory diet, which is whole foods as found in nature: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds. That's what we're meant to eat. Whole foods as found in nature. And so that's when I stopped eating processed food.
Okay. And so you stopped eating processed food, you started to eat healthily. how long did it take for these polyps to disappear, stop giving you trouble?
I don't know. I don't know exactly, but I will tell you that 6 months after going to the Optimum Health Institute, they repeated the colonoscopy and I had no polyps.
Wow.
And the doctor accused me of having surgery because, they take pictures. They have little cameras and they can measure the size and how many centimeters and where they are. And they were gone. And he said, your colon is now pink, clear, clean, and vascular like a newborn baby. Where did you have the surgery?
Oh, wow. Wow. He's like
And
pulling up
I
two
said,
pictures going, it's not possible. Like,
yeah,
what have
that's
you
what
done?
he said, so where did you have the surgery? I said, I didn't have surgery. I just changed my diet. He goes, well, that's impossible. And he stormed out of the room. And actually, the assisting GI doctor, who was from India, said, well, I believe you. And right then, it was a light bulb moment. I'm like, food has a much bigger deal than anybody is talking about. Not that anybody, I know people like John McDougall have been talking about it for years, but I wasn't listening 20 years ago like I am now.
Wow, wow. So, I mean, that's really the power of food to ameliorate disease, almost like medicine is a clear kind of example there. And a doctor absolutely bewildered by the results. Not the first person to have, well, maybe you were the first person because it was so long ago, but certainly not the last person to have that experience. Okay, you create these beautiful, delicious meals and desserts free from oil, sugar, and salt. I think everybody, kind of is aware now. I mean, certainly in our UK media, the problem with sugar has been well identified, and we've now replaced sugar with a variety of different chemical sweeteners. Why oil? I mean, what's the issue with, say, extra virgin oils and salts? Good fat, Chef AJ.
Yeah, well, I agree that there is good fat, but I want people to know that anything found in nature is better than anything made in a laboratory or in a, where do they call it? Where do they make processed food? Not a laboratory. What's it called? A manufacturing plant. So, for example, if you want good fat, eat nature's good fat. Eat an avocado. Eat a walnut, eat seeds, nuts, seeds, avocado. These are good fats as found in nature so that the fiber and the water and the vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and antioxidants and micronutrients are intact. If there's anything good in extra virgin or any kind of oil, wouldn't it be in the ingredient it was made from? So why not just eat the oil so that you can get the fiber intact? The thing is you have to understand that more than 3/4 of people in the world now are overweight or obese, and oil is pure fat. It's 14 grams of fat per tablespoon. It's 4,000 calories per pound. Tell me in nature where you see oil. You don't. It's not in nature. I once heard a wise man say, if you want to solve a problem, look to nature. There's no oil in nature, There's no agave in nature. There's no sugar in nature. There's no coffee in nature. There's no alcohol in nature. Eat food from a plant, not food manufactured in a plant. And I always say, if you can't make it easily in your own kitchen, you probably shouldn't be eating it. Yeah, there's people that can make bread and pasta, but who can really make agave and maple syrup and coconut oil and olive oil? These are heavily processed foods. And I think they're triumphs of marketing over science. So if there's anything you think you need in the olive oil, just eat the olive. Doesn't that make more sense?
No, totally.
It does to me.
Totally. I mean, I've always wondered, I mean, you take an olive or an orange or any plant really, and you cut into it. You leave it on the table for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You're going to see the quality of it change. It's going to become less desirable to eat, within a very short period of time. And here we've extracted the pure oil out of an olive. I do wonder how long it actually is good for. Like how long does it take to oxidize the thing or what have you? It's something that I've always wondered. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any clarity on that?
I don't know. I don't know how long it takes for things to go rancid or to spoil. But the thing is you want your food to spoil. That's the thing, I mean, that's good. You could take, I mean, people have done experiments with Twinkies. There was a movie, I think it was called Zombieland, where like things like Twinkies and McDonald's cheeseburgers, like 6 years later, they look the same. Is that normal?
Yeah, that's troubling, isn't it?
Want your food, if your food doesn't go bad, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't be eating. There was something really interesting I saw, and I think if you Google "from mouth to anus," Huffington Post, it was a really interesting research project done by a graduate student where they took a normal type of college student meal like Top Ramen and Gatorade, and they took they made their own healthy version of it, right? And they have these cameras now that you can swallow that will see everything that goes on in the digestive process. And when they gave them the homemade version of Top Ramen and Gatorade, digestion seemed to occur as normal. But when they gave them the processed food version, it was like it turned these weird colors in their body. It was almost like the digestive system said, what's going on? I don't know what to do with this. This isn't food. It's really fascinating if you Google that and watch that video, because processed food is so insidious in our culture. It's readily available, it's easily affordable, it's socially acceptable, but it should not be called food. Food is things that are grown. Food is grown. These are fractionated foods. These are science experiments. This is not food. If your grandmother doesn't recognize it, if you can't pronounce the ingredients, it's not food. The only time I eat a processed food is if on the label it's one ingredient. So if the can of beans says beans, then I'll eat it. But otherwise, I'm not going to eat it. Or if I'm going to eat it very sparingly as a condiment, like when I'm traveling and I can't get my food. But it's tough, because I really do believe that the processed food, especially the sugar, fat, and salt component, and the dairy component for people eating animal products, are so addictive. And people don't look at it as an addiction. But if it's not, then why is it so hard to stop? Why do you have to have it every day, or get cranky or irritable, or, I don't know. Think of how many people can go a day without a cup of coffee or a drink of wine at night. Not very many.
I mean, you often talk about food addiction.
That's my passion, because I do believe it as an addiction.
So I mean,
because if it's not, then why can't you stop?
Right. So talk to us about, I mean, which kind of foods are the most addictive?
Processed foods, foods that are full of sugar, fat, and salt, that, as Dr. Goldhammer says, fool your brain's satiety mechanisms and cause you to exponentially overeat.
So all processed foods.
I mean, okay, maybe the word should be ultra processed food or refined foods, because look, if I take a can of chickpeas and put it in my food processor with lemon and garlic, I'm processing it. I don't mean that. I mean things that have gone through a refining process, where things were removed or added. Mainly what's removed, unfortunately, in processed food, and this is also something that animal products have in common with processed food, is there's no fiber in water. There's no fiber in water. These are probably two of the most important components in food, and they are missing from both processed food and animal products. These are fiber is so important to every single bodily process. It helps flush out waste products, and it binds to cholesterol, and it tricks the brain into feeling full on fewer calories. One of the reasons people overeat is because everything they eat is lacking fiber and water. And
it's also one of the best. It's also one of the best sources of antioxidants for the body in terms of producing short chain fatty acids.
Fiber is so awesome. And anybody that finds themselves overweight, I can guarantee that you are deficient in both fiber and water in the foods you're eating. And I'm not talking about drinking 8 glasses of water a day. I'm talking about eating food with the water and fiber attacked, eating an apple versus dried apples, eating grapes versus raisins, eating whole grains versus bread, crackers. This is what I'm saying. Eat the food as grown, with the water, fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, and micronutrients intact. If you do that, you're going to be ahead of the game and probably reverse pretty much all of your lifestyle diseases. Processed food has got to go if you're not healthy, or if you find yourself overweight. I mean, I have a skinny husband with no health problems. He eats bread, he'll eat things like that. But the majority of his diet is my diet, whole natural foods without the additional of chemicals like sugar, fat, and salt.
It's also worthwhile. It's also worthwhile saying, I mean, the water that's in fruits and vegetables has been taken from the soil, filtered through the plant, et cetera, et cetera. It's some of the best structured, most clean water that you can consume, far better than the tap water that we get here at the radio station.
Fruits and vegetables. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so you make these wonderful desserts, which if you've done many videos on your YouTube channel, and they're free of oil, they're free of salt, they're free of sugar, they're free of animal products and dairy. It's kind of an amazing thing that you can create a dessert like that. Are they truly guilt-free pleasures? Are these? Well, I mean, could you eat these as a meal and it would be healthy for you?
All right. Everything exists on a continuum, and everybody's taste buds are different. But like, I'm writing a dessert cookbook now, and things like my German chocolate cake, my peanut butter chocolate cheesecake, I will put up against any standard other, cheesecake in the world.
Wow.
However, if people are used to eating a lot of sugar, fat, and salt, some of the recipes that I'm creating are not going to give them that blast of dopamine they're looking for. So at first, they're probably going to say, this doesn't taste very good. But, taste is subjective. We develop taste preferences for what we habitually eat. And if all you're eating is sugar, fat, and salt, and not eating fruits and vegetables, the kind of food I'm recommending is not going to taste very good to you at first, at least until you neuroadapt. But I do feel like if you eat the way I recommend, you can have guilt-free pleasures in every meal, because you're eating food that's basically lower in calorie density, higher in nutrient density, that's so satiating that you don't feel like you're missing anything.
Okay. And so how do you, it's often been said, I've heard this, a long time back, that the art of being a good chef is the art of being able to play with salt, fat, and sugar, the interplay of these three
absolutely.
ingredients.
Dr. Goldhammer says what we consider in the world a talented chef is somebody that's just better at concentrating sugar, fat, and salt.
Right.
I think of a great chef as somebody who can cook without them and still make the food taste delicious. To me, that is the sign of a great chef. The old joke in the restaurant business is if you have something that doesn't sell, you just throw cheese and bacon on it. You take whatever it was, oh, they're not selling, put cheese and bacon on, people buy it,
So how do you, as a very prolific chef, how do you replace sugar, salt, and fat in your desserts?
Okay, well, I don't. So oil is the easiest probably, because with oil you just use whole food fats. So you can use, like in dressings and sauces, you can use cashews, you can use tofu. Same thing in desserts. So those are nut butters, for example. So people aren't really missing that mouthfeel when you're using whole food fats like nuts, seeds, and avocado. So that's actually really easy for most people. Sugar is actually pretty easy too, because dates are the sweetest fruit in the world. They're 70% sugar, but they still have the water and the fiber and the vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, and antioxidants, and they're quite delicious. So anything anybody can do with sugar, I can do with dates. I'm not going to lie, salt is the hardest.
Just to say as well, Chef AJ, I saw on one of your channels that you recommend your viewers and your listeners keep like a bit of date syrup always to hand for use whenever they want to do that. How do you make the date syrup exactly?
Oh, so I actually stopped making date syrup when I Love Date Lady came on the market, because it's organic and it's just a lot easier. Date syrup can take a long time to make. It's sort of like the same process as reducing balsamic vinegar. You're basically boiling dates in water and cooking and cooking and cooking and cooking, reducing, blending and straining. That's kind of a long time to do, when I could just honestly drive to the Walmart that's a mile away and buy it. So I don't do that anymore, but I do make my own date paste. And I just found out you can do it in the Instant Pot, and it takes a minute. But basically, date paste is simply taking whole dates that have been pitted, soaking them in a liquid. Usually it's water. Don't throw out the water. After the dates kind of absorb most of the water and get really super soft, you just process it in a food processor fitted with the S-blade, and you have this luxurious paste that you can use for your recipes, that you can spread on toast if you eat it. It's phenomenal. Put in smoothies. It just blends a lot easier. You could use whole dates, but the paste is smoother and easier to work with.
Okay, great. So it's sweet like sugar. You can use it like sugar, and of course it's got all the wonderful qualities of dates within it, right? All the antioxidants and the fiber.
It has lots of nutritional benefits. Now, when I say use it like sugar, I don't want people to think that, like, if they have their grandmother's coffee cake recipe and it calls for 2 cups of granulated sugar, they can put 2 cups of date paste. It's not that easy of a switch. You might be able to use date sugar. There is some tweaking you have to do, but any recipe, for example, any recipe that would call for a liquid sweetener like agave or maple syrup, you certainly can use date syrup. So liquids have to be substituted for liquids, granulated for granulated. So I don't have, like, I can't tell you, hey, this much date paste. That's why I wrote this cookbook that's coming out next year, so people can know, well, this is how much date paste, at least in my recipes. That's the hardest thing, is it's so much easier for me to just create a recipe than for me to take your recipe and tell you how to fix it. Honestly, That's called recipe development. There are people that can do it. I bet you Kathy Hester can do it. But for me, I'd rather just, you tell me what you want, I'll make up a recipe.
Okay, so we've got for the fat side of things, it's quite easy to use nuts, blend nuts or avocado, and that can
Nut butters,
replace
tahini, for example,
those kind of things.
almond butter, peanut butter, depending if it's a savory recipe or a sweet recipe. So the other thing is people, depending on where they are, like if let's say they've had heart disease or they're following a lower fat diet because they follow Dr. Esselstyn or Dr. McDougall, those things wouldn't be used, but you can get creaminess and mouthfeel from things like beans, steamed cauliflower. So I can still create the textures. But the thing is if people are used to eating a high fat diet, it takes a little while for them to adjust to a lower fat diet. That's just a fact for most people. They need some time to what they call neuroadaptation to get used to it. It's sort of like people that grew up like me in the 60s, where we were raised on whole milk, and our parents at a certain point heard that fat milk was better, and they switched us. And at first, when we compared the non-fat milk to the whole milk, it was like water. But we got used to it because we didn't have anything else to drink. But then if we would go to a friend's house and we were given whole milk, it was like, what are we drinking? Paint? People get used to what they eat. It's the thing is it can take time for people to adjust if they're not eating healthfully to a healthier diet. That's why going to a place like the True North Health Center, even if they're not going to water fast and just eating the food, it makes this process of getting used to these healthier foods, it makes it easier. It makes it even easier if they do water fast, because I'll tell you, after a water fast, we feed you steamed zucchini. And
it's going to taste delicious, isn't it? It doesn't matter.
You're having a hot fudge sundae because you haven't had any food in 5 or 7 days. So everything is relative.
Chef AJ, we've actually come to the end of part one, so I hope I might be able to keep you with me for part two, which will come up in just a second. So if you can just stay with us, and we'll be back after this little message from our sponsors.
Thank you.